Good morning, everybody. Grab your cup of coffee, your tea, sit back, and let's chat a bit about what's going on today up in the stars above us. I had the most interesting experience this morning. I was getting dressed and I looked out my window and I saw this bright light. And I went, what? Is that an airplane? Because it was so bright. It looked like it was an airplane. And sometimes, airplanes come and they fly on their way to Bellingham, north of me. They fly across the island. And my husband said, Janet, do you see that light out there? And I said, yeah, I'm looking at it. And it turns out it was the planet Venus. Oh my gosh, she was beautiful. And it was just probably the crispness of the air, the clearness in the air, that I could see her so clearly and so beautifully. And it was an amazing experience this morning. So, there's, my app that I have on my phone, the Star, what is it called? Star App 3D or something, Star Map 3D Plus. And I got my app opened because in the app, you can just point your phone at what you're looking at and it will tell you what it is you're looking at. Well, I didn't even need to do that. I knew what I was looking at. And it was amazing to see what else might have been visible if the sun hadn't already broken just over the horizon. There was Saturn and Mercury, and it was pretty amazing actually to be able to see what else I could have seen. But the sun, of course, already coming up kind of dims the rest of the sky, but Venus shone brightly enough through all of that daylight glare so that I could see her. And it was beautiful. So get outside in the morning. It used to be in the evening, we had Jupiter, we had Mars, we had Venus, we had Saturn, and now they're all shifted to be the morning stars or the morning planets. And if you are up that early, go out there and take a look. It is just amazing. So anyway, that was how I got to start my day with a visual connection to the planets. And that's what I love. I love that idea of our being able to look above and know how it is affecting us here down below. And certainly beauty. And indeed, what I got a sense of was the word majesty, which I've been madly scrambling around this morning, trying to kind of get a sense of what that is. And it's almost wordless in its expression. I can bring it into words, and I'm going to bring it into words, but I don't know that will even do it justice. Because what that awe and that majesty feels like when you're looking at the night sky, or you're looking at the beautiful face of a baby. There's just Mother Nature into your family's eyes. I mean, there's just something about that word majesty that kind of carries us beyond words even. So I'm going to do my best to bring us into that. And let's start, though, by talking a little bit about what's going on today. Let's see. This morning we have Suzanne out there. Good morning. And Mimi, good morning. And Ellie, good morning. It's good to see you ladies out there. And I'm sure there are others of you. I can't tell who exactly, but welcome to the morning show, or the Meta Cafe. And let's dig in. So we're about 15 minutes or so out of the void of course moon. And that means our moon, lovely Luna, is now firmly in the sign of Aquarius. And that means that she is in a very positive and supportive relationship to Jupiter right now. A sextile, and a sextile is a 60-degree angle between the two planets, a relationship that is born out of an ability to share the gifts and talents of both. So the moon and its gift for the emotional connection and being able to see things in Aquarius outside of the norm, turning your head upside down to be able to see things differently. And Jupiter, freshly in Sagittarius, helping us get an eye for optimism and for growth and expansion. And I got to tell you, today is probably the first day that I've actually felt that Jupiter optimism, that Jupiter in Sagittarius optimism. And it feels really good. So here's the warning in all of that, right? Jupiter first teaches a lesson. And wherever it goes, right, its whole purpose is to help you grow and evolve. So wherever Jupiter is in your chart, that's where you're growing and evolving. But Jupiter in Sagittarius can be overly optimistic and overly growth oriented. So one of the things we have to really watch ourselves with right now, in particular, like on a day like today where everything feels so good and I feel like I can do so much, is to keep things proportional. Right? Don't bet on a future that isn't here yet. Does that make sense to people? In other words, so out of my enthusiasm today, I may feel like I can take on this project and live with this project for as long as it takes to get finished. But if I'm not using my type and strategy to enter into that project appropriately, then I am going to find myself in a deficit energetically or in my mind, or feeling like I overdid it. And that can happen to you with your energy. That can happen to you with your money. That can happen to you in your relationships, right? So the caution is to do all of this in an appropriate way. And in that appropriate way has a lot to do with who you are, knowing yourself, so that you don't take this energy and you just grow and expand with it, only to find out later that the reins get pulled up short and you're now, back where you started, and or maybe even further behind where you began. So we do things in the right and perfect timing, and we do things according to our type and our strategy. So if you're new here to the Meta Cafe, we talk about human design astrology, which instead of dealing with signs like, Aries and Gemini and Taurus, it deals with types and strategies and authorities, which really gives us a way to be in our bodies in this moment and behaving in a way that's correct for you personally. And of course, part of that problem, part of the issues that we as individuals have with that is that we live in a world where we're conditioned to believe that we are meant to do things in a specific way. Every one of us has gotten the message that you're meant to be in a relationship, that you're meant to have money, that you're meant to do work, that you're meant to have certain stereotypical paths in front of you or roles that you're here to lead. But if that isn't who you truly are, then you're always feeling like you don't fit in, or that you don't fit, or that nothing works for you. And so it's really important in the context of being able to live your life on your terms, that you really, truly, authentically know who you are and who you're meant to be. Let's see. Good morning, Vanita. Good morning, Colleen. It's nice to see you ladies this morning. Michelle, freshly back from her trip to the beach, I'm guessing. Welcome to the morning. Good morning, Linda. It's good to see you this morning as well. I love that everybody checks in with us and says hi. And I love when I see that you guys, you girls and guy, Tom is often in there as well, are interacting with one another and supporting one another in the day or in the things that are happening in our lives or in learning new things. It is wonderful. And thank you, Linda. So in this day then, today is this first opening, I feel like, for most of us, the first opening for some optimistic connection with what is coming down the line. Just remember to make sure it's all proportional and that you don't keep growing and growing and growing without checking in to see, is this the correct thing for me to do? Is this right for me? Good morning, Kathy Miller. Mimi says, yes, feeling Jupiter. I have tons to accomplish. I have a list and I know how to use it. LOL. That's awesome. Just make sure that your list has an end to it, right? And that if you don't accomplish everything, that you at least give yourself the time today to be able to do some fun things. Unless, of course, the list is all about having fun, which it could be. I know yesterday I got tons done. I had the potential yesterday for real frustration, and it showed, right? I was getting monstrously irritated with this, trying to put together this webinar for all of you, because I wanted it to be a seamless act of being able to register, or to be able to pay for your webinar, to register for the webinar in the same way, and then for that program to inform me that you've registered so I can do my part, which is to get you the free 12-month transit report. And I must have tried 10 different ways to get this done. And I was getting frustrated. I got up and I turned away and I walked around and I'm steaming, literally steaming. And I came back and I sat down and I noticed this little help button in the program I was trying to use, which is Zoom. And it said help. And I was like, yeah, I need help. So I clicked on it. It said, what do you need help with? And I just said, what did I say? Something like using uh, uh, directing payments to Zoom or something. And whatever I wrote, it had an answer for it. And not only did it have an answer, it had step-by-step directions. And so I printed off the directions and I was able to finally get done what I had been struggling with almost all of the day to get done. And it was magnificent, right? So sometimes if you are so irritated with what's going on in your life that you can't see the forest for the trees, sometimes just getting up and blowing off some steam, move around. I couldn't go check the mail yesterday even because there was no mail yesterday. It was a holiday. So I was like, what am I going to do? So I just used my inside house as a track and just worked off the energy, came back, saw help. Now, I don't know. That's probably there all the time and I just didn't notice it. But help is just a click away. And it certainly was for me yesterday. And let's see what else is going on today. So the moon is also in a smooth flowing relationship with a new piece for us, and that's Pallas Athena. And if you'll remember, Pallas Athena on election day moved into 0 degrees of Libra, a very political sign, a sign of bringing balance and harmony to the political scene, ideally meting out justice and fairness and concerned with all of the things that we think about as the law and bringing harmony. And Pallas Athena herself she reminds me of sort of the Statue of Liberty goddess, right? She's really about fairness and she's really about bringing our power to ourselves. And I think on that day, she brought power to the people and the people spoke. And this is, mainly for the United States, but this could be happening, to you all around the world, no matter where you are. And it may be happening simply in your personal life. Where is it that you're taking up the mantle of balance and harmony, of justice, of equality, of bringing things into some kind of harmony and balance? And so Pallas Athena, in some respects, takes us on a journey back to, especially for you as women, she takes you on a journey backwards in time to a point when you were a young girl and you were living at home. And what was the model of authority that you saw in your outer world most likely through your father? So it takes us to our father figures or our authority figures and how your relationship was engaged with your father in no small part plays a role with how it is that you show up for yourself in the world, how you claim your authority. And so it's really interesting then to look at where Pallas Athena was when you were born, and then how it is she has progressed through your chart. And here she sits now in Libra and asking us all to balance, I think, balance both the masculine and the feminine energies within ourselves, right? In your human design chart, let me just show you if I got one handy here, and I should. I had one yesterday. Let me move my coffee so I don't end up spilling it in my... The reason I'm worried about spilling stuff into my computer is because there's a lot of focus gathering around Sagittarius. And Sagittarius, of all the signs in the zodiac, is the klutz. Just ask a Sagittarian. They're the ones that bump into things. They're the ones that trip over things. They're the ones that... There was a great scene last night in... I record everything because I can't stand commercials. And I love Grey's Anatomy, and I recorded Grey's Anatomy. And I was watching it last night. And there's this woman, she's a character on the show, and I swear she has to be a Sagittarian because every time I turn around, she's breaking something, falling over something, hurting herself, hurting someone else inadvertently. And I swear she's a Sagittarius. And last night, she and her lover are lying in bed, and he takes his phone and he tosses it over her, and it lands on the floor. She goes, okay, fine. They're doctors, right? So they're always kind of on call. So she takes her phone and tosses it over onto his side, but she hits the glass of water or champagne, whatever it is that they had been drinking, and shatters it, breaks it all over the floor. And eventually she steps in said glass and cuts her foot. And I went, okay, she has to be a Sagittarius or a Sag rising or something, because that's what happens with Sagittarius. So right now, because I'm a Gemini and Sagittarius is that opposing point, I am going to make myself uber aware of where I am in time and space. And you guys can do this too, because you want to minimize the impact of stubbing your toe and breaking it, falling down the stairs, of breaking something, of spilling your coffee in your computer, especially with Mercury getting ready to retrograde. So it's really a call for us right now to be in our bodies, to be physically in your body as much as possible. And I know we always think we're in our bodies, but your mind is wandering, and your mind might be, on something that you need to do a week from now or sometime later this weekend. And you're not here in the moment. And that means you didn't see that you're about to trip over something and you get hurt. So be in your body, right? Be in your body. So I want to show you as it relates to Pallas Athena. Let me go back to her now. And the idea of balance and harmony. And I want to show you physically in your human design chart. And I know I've probably shown this to you before, is that no matter what is going on in your human design, whether it's defined or whether it's open, it's white if it's open. See, all that whiteness is open. It's defined if it has black, red, or a striped look to it, right? No matter whether you have it open or not, you have all of this human design. This is you, all of you. All of you. And then some of you have things that are turned on or are defined, and others have it open. And in other areas, you have it open. And even if you're someone who has all of the centers colored in, and there's few of you out there, you still have openness in some of the channels and the gates. So everybody has all of the human design. Here is the feminine side of your human design, right here, this channel 5027. And over here on this side is the masculine part of your human design. Now, isn't it interesting that the sacral connects us to the feminine on one side to the spleen, and onto the other side through the masculine to the energy of emotion, to the solar plexus. I don't know what that means exactly, but I think it's fascinating that the sacral energy balances us in the feminine to the spleen, the energy of survival and thriving, right? And the energies of taking care of. And there's also the energies of fear here. So it means realigning ourselves and our values around what is thriving as opposed to what is just surviving. And that's a feminine side. The masculine side aligns our energy with our emotions. Isn't that weird? Because men often think of themselves as not emotional, yet the masculine energy itself is connected specifically to emotion, and specifically through the gate 6, which is the gate of intimacy. And so what we really see is that we are designed to have both of those in balance and both of those in harmony. But while we're human and here on this planet, we may have it set up in various ways, but you have all of it. And Pallas reminds us that you have the masculine energy of being able to take forward action in your life that is aligned with your desires, that is aligned with what you want, that is aligned with how you feel. And on the other side, you have the energy for the feminine, which is receptive and is also aligning with the laws and the values of the tribe or of the community or of the family or of the nation. So isn't that interesting, right? And so Pallas, in a nice position this week, or this morning at least, with the moon, reminds us all to bring our power and bring it back into balance, right? Bring it back into balance. Those both parts of us, and to be able to use both parts in order to move forward in a very powerful way. The moon today is also right now actually in a square to the planet Uranus. Actually, it's kind of waning. It's moving away from that square. So I would expect today maybe some ahas and epiphanies, things, especially because remember in human design, the sun is sitting at the gate 43, which is that gate of breakthrough, the aha, the I see things so differently and so out of the norm that I just have to share it, and it's connected to the throat center, and we only share our ahas and our epiphanies with the right people in the right time and with an invitation. Because when you share out of time and out of place, it is not received in the way that you expected it to be received, and or you get scooped, right? Where someone else later hears, your idea, and the group at the moment doesn't act on it or doesn't even value it, doesn't see the beauty in it, but later someone may say something and it's your same idea, and now everybody sees it in its beauty and its harmony, and you're left going, but I had that idea. That was my idea. So always being willing to share your epiphanies and your ahas, but in the right time, in the right place, with the right people. And you can only do that via an invitation or questioning. You could say to people, hey, I've just had this brilliant aha. Is it something that you guys want to hear about? If they say no, you do not want to say it. You go, okay, great. I'll just hold this one close. If you are intuitive in your human design, you might know intuitively when it's time to speak. For some of you who are emotional, you may have to wait, right, to speak those ideas, because it may be something that you need more clarity about first. So it's interesting. There's two planets, the moon and Uranus, that are showing us this possible idea or aha or brilliance, and also the sun and earth combination in our human design this week that are also bringing us that. And together, all of that does tend to push us into the more optimistic end of things. But again, taking too much action based in optimism can also be a negative thing. And it can almost guarantee to garner Saturn's notice. And Saturn likes boundaries and form and structure, and will act to bring you back into that kind of structure. Let's see, what are people thinking out there this morning? Suzanne, yep, I'm a generator and it's so hard to wait. Oh God, I know. Kathy Miller, Mimi, there weren't the two things I went there to buy. Kathy says, Kenny and I are also klutzes. Why is that? I can tell you, because Pisces is very similar. They're often out in the ethers, consciousness-wise, Kathy, and aren't footed here on the ground. It's interesting because the feet are the part of the body that Pisces rules, and the feet are sometimes the issue. Ankles are more Aquarius, but the feet themselves, your feet aren't on the ground. So Pisces has to work extra hard to be grounded, to keep their feet here. It's like having a million, helium balloons attached to you, and you can just fly off into the ethers very easily. And what you really need is to be able to maintain contact with terra firma. Good morning, Gail. Good morning, Cindy. And good morning, Jacqueline. It's good to see you. Kathy says, I went shopping to a dollar store for 2 things and accidentally bought 18. Oh, that's funny. Elle says, I use my house as a track too. When it's too wet or dark to walk outside, it really helps. I have this wonderful track. I can walk from my bedroom through the bathroom, into the hallway, through the kitchen, into the living room, and come back through my bedroom. I mean, it's just this open area. And I've literally gotten 10,000 steps in a day just by walking the track here in my house. And luckily, most of it's on floor as opposed to carpet. So I haven't worn a hole in the carpeting doing it either. All right. Okay. So thank you, everybody, for your comments. And Colleen says, oh no, I'm Pisces moon, Sag rising, my Virgo sun doesn't ground me enough not to be klutzy. You know what works? Chocolate. Chocolate is very grounding. If there was ever a reason for you to eat chocolate, it's that, right? Get some really good Mayan gold chocolate or something, and just, bring that, or stones, particular. I don't have any on this morning, but some stones act as grounding. I don't know specifically those stones. If anybody does know what crystals or stones that could be for certain signs, perhaps, then feel free to share that information with us, because I think it's valuable information for us to have. All righty. So let's go back to yesterday's conversation about strength, or excuse me, yesterday's conversation was about force. and reminding you that the gene key 34, which is where Jupiter is sitting right now and will be for the next couple of weeks, is a gate on the sacral center that in its shadow is the energy of force. It is, remember, the energy that is connected sort of to survival of the fittest, where we have this urge in our lives to force things to happen. And it is sort of the prime directive, if you will, of survival energy. It is what gets us to, it's what allowed us to move through and become the dominant species on the planet and to evolve beyond other forms of life. It has also had the side effect of creating a competitive atmosphere here on the planet, as those people who feel like they are threatened in some way gather resources and gather things to them in a very competitive way. And this leads us to the energy of trying, and trying takes us out of the flow. It takes us out of sync with the flow of energy and the way that it's moving. And remembering that this was, I shared yesterday, linked chemically to the gate 43, or the gene key 43, which is where the sun is today, where deafness is in the shadow. And the shadow of deafness is that, we don't hear the wisdom of the people around us or of the universe speaking to us about what is the proper action to take. We are just hell-bent for election on doing whatever it is that we need to do. And it is this shadow that creates a deafness to any outside influences. And I use the example of the president here in this country, who will sometimes get something in his head, and he just, no matter what the wisdom is of the people around him, he's just got it in his head and he's going to go out there and do it or say it. And the trouble that often gets him into. And it's almost like the more that your peers or the people around you challenge you or complain about what it is you're doing, the more volatile that you can become in the shadow. And this was really about the energy of force is rooted in the mind, right? This is the mind that is speaking to you about things, as opposed to the real power of that sacral engine. So today we're going to take it, we're going to move out of the shadow of force, and we're going to look at what it means to have strength. Strength is the gift in this particular gene key. And the gene key 34 is, there's so many layers here. If you guys have got the book, here's my copy. It's an older copy of the gene keys. The cover is different now. It's like 64 bubbles in a what do you call those things, like a mandala looking picture on the front, but it's still this book, Gene Keys, Unlocking the Higher Purpose Hidden in Your DNA by Richard Rudd. And read, if you have this, the Gene Key 34, because it's pretty amazing. And it's so layered. And I mean, I could probably talk about this key all week long and still find new things to bring to you about it. But it's simply this. There's this very fine line between the energy of force, which is the shadow, and the energy of strength, which is the gift. And it's the same primal vitality that we have based in the sacral, but it's done through the appropriate actions and right timing in the gift. And it is creative manifestation aligned with life force that receives attention, reward, recognition. So think about that for a minute, right? This is the gene key 34, Suzanne. We're looking at 34, which is where Jupiter is sitting right now. And that's the reason we're taking a look at this deeper, because for the next couple of weeks, Jupiter is actually sitting at this gate. And since it is in a sign that triggers us to grow and to expand, I thought we would want to take a look at how it is that we grow and expand. And there's two ways here. One is through forcing things to happen, which, as we have just been talking about, can lead us to volatility, being in the wrong place at the wrong time with the wrong people in the wrong place, as opposed to strength, the gift here, which is where we align our life force with the right timing in the right place. And it's like the energy just magically flows. I'm going to give you a definition of strength. It is the ability to act in harmony with natural forces. Strength is the ability to act in harmony with natural forces. It has no element of trying in it or forcefulness within it. It is simply the energy that flows out of you and becomes effortless. And there's just no exertion needed in order to get something done. And there's no, there's no need for exerting yourself in a conscious way. Exertion in this case is effortless. It requires no resistance. You're just moving with that energy. So I'm going to give you sort of an example. You know how often when there's something going on in the world, let's say a major earthquake, the big fires, what comes out of that are often these acts of heroism, right? We hear about the Titanic effort that someone undergoes to save someone's life, to move a car off someone, to stay in endurance long enough to find survivors, etc. And they're often termed heroes or heroines, and yet they have no awareness in themselves of striking out to be the hero. They just saw or felt that energy gather within them. To go and move with that energy was, I can take this and I can help, and I do it. And I really am not even aware. It was effortless on my part or on their part, right? They just did it. They didn't even think about what it might mean to themselves. They just acted. And it's that kind of energy that we're talking about. That's the energy of strength. It is the energy of power gathering in the sacral. And that energy of power then is moved out of you, and it flows out of you without any conscious awareness of your own self, or of the conscious awareness of this has to be done. It's just movement. There's a lot of movement. Of course, there would be movement. It's sitting on the sacral center, and the sacral center is the very physical manifestation of our being here, right? It's the power center for human beings. Now, when we take this and we elevate it to the word majesty, majesty is force. Let's go back and redefine. Force itself is unaware of itself and leads to destruction, leads to destructive actions. Strength is unaware of itself, but it leads to admiration. People standing outside look in and go, wow, look at what you did. While that person who did it is not really even aware of what they've done. They've just acted in concert with their vitality, and as it flowed out of them. Majesty is the human form in motion, and the form itself is pure awareness. So majesty reveals the true beauty of consciousness in form. It is the idea of man as God and God in man. So we have this idea, and it niggles in every one of us about how we are so much more than we believed ourselves to be, right? And here we have it right here in our power center, this idea of majesty, that there's a completely transcendent being here within us that has power, that has strength, that has majesty. And we have some physical practices in our own, in our world that sort of aim us at this idea of this higher consciousness, of this God self within. You're familiar with them, right? The mudras, the hand things that we do, the mudras, the asanas in yoga, Tai Chi. These are all sort of these physical, spiritual practices that are aimed at creating a connection to the sacred or to the divine. And these sacred movements, gestures, dances, the rituals contain the codes of higher consciousness, but they can also strengthen our belief that there's a path to higher consciousness. So there's sort of this paradox that occurs, right? Is that these physical practices that we engage, if we go into these practices believing it to be a path to higher consciousness, we've already lost it. But if because higher consciousness comes in a leap, it comes as a sort of evolutionary leap of consciousness where, in a moment, it's a momentary leap. And these practices, whether it's yoga, tai chi, meditation, you name it, any of these practices that we have are sort of the gateways to our being able to embody that. It's almost like it sets the stage for that evolutionary leap, but there isn't a path to that leap. Please tell me you are understanding what I'm saying, because this is so esoteric. It's hard to ground into words. Can you say that definition again for, the word strength? Yes. The ability to act in harmony with natural forces, and it has no element of trying or forcefulness within it. It simply flows out of you, and you become effortlessly at one with the activity that you're doing. And effortless doesn't mean that you're not exerting or having any physical action taking place. It just means there's no resistance to the action that needs to be taking place. Right? It is the hero or the heroine, remember, and it is that the hero is often acting without awareness that, because, why do firemen, run into burning buildings to save people? Survival energy in and of itself would tell you, stay out of that burning building. And you could make the case it's their job to do that. But in many cases, they go beyond that just job. They move with this without this conscious awareness. They're just moving, flowing with a higher consciousness that's coming without being aware of what they're doing. It seems sort of paradoxical, doesn't it? That's why I said there's so many layers to this particular gene key, that it's one that likely over the next several days, new things may come up to us about it. And I didn't even, at some point I had to even stop reading about it because it was just blowing my mind. I don't even have gate 34 defined, except today. All of us have it defined by Jupiter. So this is unfamiliar energy to me. To have that energy defined is very unfamiliar. And for some of you, it's going to be. If you are a manifesting generator, likely you have this gate defined. So it may not be so, it may be very familiar to you. So some of you may understand it better than others. So that's why I say get this book. And if I can find a place where that is written, if you don't have the book, I will try to find that in a PDF or something and send it out to people. Mimi says, yes, I do get your description. Suzanne, thank you. She's understanding. How about some of the rest of you? I know there's, like I said, there's these layers here to all of this. I want to say that, these sacred movements, the mudras, the yogas, the tai chis, the, whatever sacred practice that you adopt gives us as humans access to these higher states of consciousness, but it doesn't lead you to the leap that occurs to get you there. There's the real paradox, right? Is it gives us access to that higher state of consciousness. We can become very aware of that, but it doesn't necessarily lead us to the leap that takes us there permanently. Grr. Right? That's a grr. So what are we doing all of this for? That's a great question, right? What are we doing all of this for? Well, I guess that's part of the reason why we come to the planet, right? We come to the planet to learn to be God in form. I don't know how to say that any better. We come here to the planet to, I don't even know how to describe that one. Maybe somebody else has the words to be able to describe that. Good morning, Natasha. I just see your comment here. She says to ground as much as you can, or as much as I can, meaning her. She uses hematite around her ankle as it is choking and too heavy around my neck. Hematite is really pretty heavy at times. Even a small piece, you can feel the weight of it. Mimi says, born with Pallas Athena in Aquarius, retrograde in the 11th. Interesting. Well, to me, that spells total creative energy. And the creative energy, being able to use, Mimi, both hemispheres of the brain, meaning you have probably a specific gift in being able to use the more logical, informational side of your brain with the more creative feminine side of your brain in a way that is kind of different, right? It brings out different things. And in the 11th house is the gift of, or the 11th house is dealing with people, groups of people or communities of people, humanitarian efforts. It is also the place that we call the wish house, or it is the place of intention, of you being able to manifest your dreams into reality. It is a visionary sort of place. So it's almost like, maybe you could equate this to some of the art pieces that you do, right? Where you get a vision and you hold the vision and then it connects with the actual doing, the physical piece, and then it becomes a creative expression of all of that energy. So Cindy says grounding stones, garnet, tiger's eye, hematite, very good grounding stones. Also amethyst. Interesting. Amethyst. And Stephanie says, oh man, I didn't need that excuse to eat chocolate. Ha ha. But I will be happy to add it to my grounding routine. Elle says, I knew chocolate was good medicine. Absolutely. Absolutely. So chocolate has a really good, but good chocolate, not the crappy, Milky Way, Snickers things that you get, but that good chocolate, if you go to your Whole Foods or to your local, what is that called? Not like a Whole Foods store or your farmers markets, etc. You'll find some really good quality chocolate, and it's pretty good for you actually, and it has very little sugar in it, but lots of cacao, and that means the I forgot what's it called. There's a specific component of chocolate that's very healthy, and I can't remember what it is exactly, but maybe I'll look that up for you. Mimi says, thank you for that information, Janet. I'm nearly 50-50 for my left and right brain, and that is exactly your palace, right? Your palace. And Kathy says, yes, we called force a power struggle, and you eventually will lose the battle. Absolutely. I love it how you guys just get this, that you just understand this kind of thing, because these are higher order concepts, if you will. I mean, if you just went out and started talking to people on the street, JQ, on the street, they may not understand what it is you're talking about. Right? We see people all the time who are trying to force things happen. I've been trying to do it for a long time, and I realize I'm doing it. And awareness is part of the path to healing this, right? Is that awareness that I'm pushing, that I'm out of sync with the flow. In human design and in the gene keys, often we say things like, you want to follow your type and your strategy and your authority because it puts you in the right place at the right time with the right people for the right opportunities. And we have to learn the patience it takes to be okay with that, for no matter how long it takes. And therein is the challenge, because sometimes it might take a very long time. Timing is completely out of our hand, right? And all we can really do is be aware and to be watchful of what's showing up in our outer worlds. If we're generators and manifesting generators, if you are a manifester, it's about what are the ideas that are generating within you. If you're a projector, it's about what are the invitations that you're getting. What are you being invited into? Literally invitations, from the people around you. And if you're a reflector, what is the world reflecting to you? That is how you enter into things. It's so powerful. And yet it's so easy for us to get ourselves lost in that and forget. I'll tell you in my own personal chart, and this is the beauty of the hologenetic profile. So remember, I had you guys, and if you need me to post that again, let me know. I'll be happy to do that. Remember, I had you all get your hologenetic profiles, right? This thing from the Gene Keys. And the reason I was really interested in this is because this rather than your human design, shows you what your individual pathway is. And we can find it in your human design too. So don't get me wrong, it's there. But in your Gene Keys holographic or hologenetic profile, say that 10 times fast, there's this one piece up here and it's called the core. The core. And is that it? Because I'm backwards in the mirror here. There's the core. And the core, and Richard Rudd describes it as your core stability. And my freaking core stability is stillness. Are you kidding me? So as generators or manifesting generators, when you see that gate 52 in an important role like that, it tells you there are going to be times of non-action. And I know that. But it still is elusive. It's still annoying. It's still because I have all 4 motors defined. So they're all always working. And if I don't have something to do, then I am beside myself. Every time I remember, oh yes, your core stability comes from stillness. I can get to that place of stillness. I can get to that place of restraint. Restraint is the gift. Stillness is the Siddhi. I'm not quite sure I'm ever up at the Siddhi, but I'm pretty sure I can get to restraint out of stress, right? The lower expression of my core stability is stress. And I'm stressed when I feel like I don't have action to take. And it can cause me no end of trouble when I keep taking action. So sometimes I have to remind myself to come back to that baseline core stability. So I urge you guys, get your hologenetic profile. Take a look at what your core stability is. And when you find that core stability, research it, right? What is it that brings you to that stable place, right? If it's like mine and it's stillness, yours is probably going to be different. But whatever that key is, that's what you have to engage in a very powerful way. All right, let's see. Any questions out there? Stephanie, good morning, Stephanie. She says, I love raw Mexican chocolate. You know, when I was in Mexico last summer, no, it wasn't summer, it was last winter. Holy cow, it's almost been a year. I went on a cruise and we went to Cozumel. We toured a Mexican chocolate factory. And it wasn't even a factory. I would never call it a factory because by our standards here, a factory would be this huge, like conveyor belts, etc. No, this was a family operation and they made the most excellent chocolate. And they must have had 50 different types of chocolates that they produced, from milk chocolate to chili pepper chocolate to milk chocolates to oh god, you name it, they made it. And part of our tour, we got taste tests of all this wonderful chocolate. And for the longest time, I had this extended amount of energy. And it was a good thing because this was one day's worth of like going from place to place to place. And it was amazing to me how just those little samples of these chocolates really gave me this feeling of being, connected to the earth. It was great. Let's see. Local food co-ops have excellent healing chocolate. Yes, the co-op. Thank you. That's the word I was looking for. Vanita, thank you. And Ellie, thank you. Kathy Miller says my former job was with MRDD adult clients. Force never, but redirection works much better. That's a good idea. Redirecting your energies. Ellie says feminine life source energy, Shekinah, is derived from the Hebrew verb skin, strong. I don't know what she's saying. The Semitic roots means to settle, inhabit, or dwell. The root word is often used to refer to birds nesting. I love it. So maybe that's about grounding. Which gene key is stability? That I don't know. Well, maybe I can tell you. Stability. Oh, no, no, no. What I'm talking about is the core stability. That's the name of the part of the hologenetic profile that is part of the Pearl sequence. And it is equivalent to your 9-month gestation period where you were within your mother's womb. And it is part of, like I said, the Pearl sequence. But when you're looking at your hologenetic profile, all the sequences are engaged here. We've got the activation sequence, the Venus sequence, and the Pearl. So there's not necessarily a gene key that represents stability. It is that piece of the profile represents your core stability. Okay. Let's see. And was the dot green or blue? It's blue, Suzanne. It's a blue dot. And it says core up above it. And we talk about it in our Gene Key Ambassador Circle as the core stability. You know, what really grounds you here, makes you be here, right? Which gene key? Okay, no. Can you please show that dot on the holographic again? Yes, ma'am. It is right here. Core. Equivalent to your 9-month gestation period. And you'll notice in your hologenetic profile, you see these faint lines with arrows. It shows how every part of this is interconnected. Culture's on the other side, Suzanne. Culture's on this side. So it's this side over here that says core. So it's core, it's culture, and it's Pearl. That's all part of the Pearl sequence. But you can also look at the gene key that you have there and do a deep dive through that and see what you glean about this piece that is the core. You know, I think one of the steps I'm going to be taking for all of us next year, and this has just been my, starting to look at 2019 in terms of what I'm going to share with all of you. I think we're going to probably do a lot of gene keys work. For several reasons, but the main reason is that next year is quite the year. And that's why I'm also really excited to be able to share with you some of the things, through the webinar, the Astrology for 2019 webinar, because there are some really tricky things coming up. If you know about them ahead of time, they're not so tricky anymore, right? It's not tricky. It is manageable. And so learning about what it is, what the bigger generic energies are, and then, bringing that in and focusing it into your own chart can help you understand and help you, move through these energies as we come into the new year. Now, every year has its challenges and every year has its issues, but this particular year to me seems extremely tricky. And it's sort of that, it's the kind of year I think of as a choice point. Greg Braden would call it a choice point, where we come to the V and we either choose to go down the path of destruction or we choose to go down the path of rebuilding or of higher consciousness, of reconstruction, let's say, or rebuilding. And that's the choice point, right? 2019 holds that space. It's fascinating, right? It's really fascinating. And I think it's important in terms of our humanity, but it's also important for us in terms of the only thing that we can really control, and that is our response to everything that's happening. So instead of, being scared and upset when things in the outer world show up, knowing about them ahead of time or the potential for them eases the path, right? So then there's not that knee-jerk reaction energy. And we know that what does reaction energy do? It takes you out of being grounded. So that is why I'm really excited to be able to share that. So I sent out many different ways for you to connect yesterday for that webinar. There'll be a blog post going out about it tomorrow. I posted it right here on the Living Astrology Facebook page, where you can go directly to it and register. You can register all the way up to December 5th. So don't feel like if you don't do it today, you're not going to have a seat. Although I only have space for 100. If I had 100, I would be so excited. But I will let you know if it looks like we're getting that close, right? If you haven't made the decision yet. But of course, the best way to avoid that is to, reserve your seat now. And with that, you're getting a free 12-month transit report that is individualized to you. Now, let me talk about that for 1 second, because when you get that, it's going to be a big report. And it's going to have a lot of information in it, and you're going to be very confused. So I am going to do a mini webinar on that toward the end of probably the week between Christmas and New Year, so that on January 1st, you will all understand how that works, right? You'll be able to bring some key elements to the webinar. It'll be free. And we will talk about, how do I read this transit thing, right? How do I use this effectively for me? So be watching out for that. What else? Tomorrow morning, I will have Donna Blevins with me. She has written the book Mind Shift on Demand. And I'm so excited because I feel it in me that she is going to be able to share some really cool tools with us about how to shift our minds when we get into those spots, right? When we get into that place where we're just, wanting to take action, or we're, totally in stress, or we're upside down in our, brains. She's going to give us some really cool tools. So that'll be tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock, right here in the Meta Cafe. Again, like any, guest on the show, she will be able to help answer questions with you. She will probably be able to tell you, I know she will, how to get the book, etc. I also sent a blog post out about that yesterday with a link where you can download that book or buy the book itself. And you can download it in digital, or you can buy the actual hard copy of the book. Let's see, what else do I need to share with you? I think that's it. I think that's it for now. So Colleen grabbed her seat. She did indeed. I saw that. So I will be sending you your report, Colleen. Don't freak out over it, okay? Don't freak out. No, we're going to talk about it. So anyway, I think that's all I have for today. Shekinah rhymes with Dinah, an excellent feminine mantra to balance the masculine life force energies. Elle, I invite you to share more about that, and put it here on this page where everybody can see it. Or if it won't let you post it, send it to me and I'll post it on your behalf, because I know sometimes after the live, it's hard for people to post things. Suzanne has come up against that a couple of times. Even though I've said that anybody could post whatever, Facebook just doesn't believe me, I guess, and they don't allow it. So that's it. That's it for me today. Thank you all for joining me this morning. I send out much love to all of you. Mwah! See you tomorrow morning. Have a great day. Bye for now.